Kia ora everybody. Welcome to this board meeting for the Otago Peninsula Community Board. Thank you for your attendance today and thank you for putting up with having to go on Zoom. Obviously we were postponed from last time because of the beginning of lockdown, and nice to see us get started. Lox, I believe you're in charge of today's reflection.
Ken. Bogotov Manishma. We are in the midst of our second lockdown, which indicates that COVID-19 is with us forever, that the old world as we knew it will never return. We all have a responsibility to ourselves and others to keep ourselves safe. Misinformation, opponents to vaccination based on complete negation of rational thinking, and an oversupply of comments from an array of academic show ponies, and some of an overinflated sense of entitlement does not help the cause. It only causes and confuses and compounds the problem. However, to be on a more positive note, over 1 million stones have been laid on the seawall between Dunedin and Portobello, which is a record in itself, and that the removal of the power lines from Port Chalmers to Portobello has commenced, and that also has removed visual pollution. So there is two positives to take from that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Docs. As I say, it's been wonderful to see the power lines disappear, and it'll be a great opportunity for us here on the peninsula as well. There's no public forum today, and are there any apologies? I don't think there are. No apologies. We'll move on to confirmation of the agenda. Just a reminder that item 8, the keeping of animals excluding dogs and birds bylaw review, will be in the agenda for our October meeting. And we withdraw item 9, the funding application for the Glenfelloc Night Garden event. So I move that the agenda be changed from those particular items. Someone to second, just put your hand up. Thank you, Graham. We also confirm the agenda, yes, that's all done. Very good. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded of the need to stand aside from decision making when a conflict arose between their role as an elected representative and any private or other external interest they might have. Are there any updates to the agenda? Edna?
I need to be removed from the Taroney Beach Coast Care off the list of interests.
Yep. Anybody else?
Yes, I can be removed as president of the RSA. I'm just a member now.
Jolly good. So I move that the board notes, amends if necessary, the elected members register interest attached and confirms and amends the proposed management plan for members' interest. Someone to second. Thank you, Andrew. We'll move on now to item 6, and that is the confirmation of minutes. And I move that we can confirm the public part of the minutes of the Otago Peninsula Community Board held the 24th of June 2021 as a correct record. Someone to second. Thank you. We move now to reports. We have had Ben, I believe you're here. Are you to give us some further update on transport issues?
Yes, hello. Sorry, and yeah, that's a Peninsula Connection update, and Josh was going to attend but couldn't, unfortunately. So apologise for that. And I'm not as thick in the detail in terms of the project as Josh, so I apologise for that. But his update was that since your last update, not a lot has happened, obviously, on the ground, and they're still preparing that the next sections 5 and 9 to go out to tender before Christmas.
So I can probably fill in some detail in as much as that the letter drop for the principal affected parties in the section from in Broad Bay up to Fletcher House, the letters have gone out to those particular people. And you would have seen during lockdown, I sent you a copy of the schematic plan for the Broad Bay design. My understanding at the moment, Ben, is that's just about to go to tender.
Correct.
And so you would have seen that. The website goes live on Friday, and I will post that out to the community on social media as well. So it fits in with the arrival of that from there. Are there any questions? Did all of you see that Broad Bay design, the schematic for that?
Yep. Yes.
You're all happy with that? Yeah, I was pretty comfortable. I was pretty comfortable with what I saw there, Ben, to be honest. And if you could just pass on to Kim, thanks from the board, and to Nick for the communication with the community on that. It was quite critical that the people that were adjacent to that construction work, who were the most affected, knew what was going on and what the time frame was as well.
Will do, thank you.
The only other thing, I suppose, is also what's happening in Portobello. My understanding at the moment, Ben, is that we're just waiting for the concrete stairs to be finished to be cast.
I probably can't give you a definite answer on that, sorry, Paul.
Okay.
I can go and find it.
Oh, okay, well, I will, because that's what I understand. We're waiting for the stairs to be finished cast. Just before lockdown, GHD indicated that they'd hoped to have that work finished over about an 8-week period. But obviously with lockdown, but we're waiting for the stairs. That's what we're waiting for. And I'm hoping that we'll see that along with the other work for next year sorted. So my understanding is, I say, that we're waiting, the road safety parts of that up to the school will be next year, early in the new year. And the tender for that goes out very shortly as well.
Yeah, that's correct.
There's certainly been gentlemen wandering around with orange vests measuring things and looking at things, and I suspect they're prospective tenderers. I know Edna, and you were at the meeting, Ben, and I know Edna's itching to ask this question. Where are we going, or how are things going with Marine Parade?
Yeah, I believe Edna's shared a couple of emails with their engineer, Ian, and he's provided a couple of responses. But in short, I guess that COVID's delayed our contract and looking at options there. We're a little bit limited in what we've done, so we are still waiting to hear back from them about what we can do there in terms of fitting with the existing, or what's already built, hopefully, and making it a bit more aesthetic, or potentially options to make it more aesthetic, and reducing the height or the need for the fence in places. So,
and this morning, Ben, I just wanted to thank you for visiting Bev in Greig Street. I understand you went and spoke to her about her hedge.
Yeah, we did. I apologise to Bev. I'd let her down. I'd responded to an email to the wrong email address, so I'd added to her frustration. So we thought we'd go out and resolve a few problems, and I think we got there. So.
No, that's very good. Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for Ben just in relation to roading issues on the Otago Peninsula at the moment? I would just raise one, and that was over lockdown. The Phantom Penis painters are around on the peninsula. One at Harrington Point Road, down on the Desert Road, and the other at Allens Beach Road. I see the one on Allens Beach Road has been attended to. Was there one on Harrington Point Road sorted, Hawani?
I've stopped noticing it, but the tree trunk that runs across there is certainly still there.
All right.
Which is what they drew it on top of.
Right.
So, you know, I will double check today.
Yeah, if you would, and perhaps feed that back to Andrew and see where we go from there. What I would say is the Allens Beach Road one seems to be a temporary fix in the short term, but there's a bigger issue, I think, with that one, Ben, and perhaps have a talk to Andrew further from there.
Yeah.
I'll freely admit this, I jokingly said in an email to Andrew some months ago, after seeing the man in Auckland draw the penises in Auckland, I jokingly said I was going to do something similar about Allens Beach, and then lo and behold, a penis turned up in Allens Beach and had to write apologetically to Andrew, saying that it wasn't the chairman of the board doing that on Allens Beach Road, and that please do not think that that was me. So I was caught out for being a smart bugger, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that it wasn't actually me that did that in the yellow paint.
There's a list of suspects on our wall, but we'll cross you off there.
Thank you. I'm not on the wanted list. Ben, I think if there's no other further questions for you, we might let you go back to work, and you can go on and carry on with what you need to do. Looks like you've got the kids car there with the in the back.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was a bit late giving blood, so I didn't even make it back to the office. So I
That's
apologise for that.
We look forward to perhaps seeing you in October.
Thank you.
See you later. Item 8, the dogs and bird, the extruding dogs and birds bylaw review, that has been postponed until the October meeting. And we move on now to funding applications, and that too, the Otago Peninsula Trust have withdrawn their Glenfelloc Night Garden event application due to the COVID issues. And so we will not need to discuss that. However, we do have on item 10 2 scholarship applications, and I'll ask you to discuss that, Edna.
Oh, okay. Well, this morning I sent you all copies, I hope you got them, of supporting documents for Liam Donovan's scholarship application. They're just references. So there's 2 applications. There's Liam Donovan and Taylor McLean. Now, I'm not sure about Taylor's one because she was wanting funding for last month, but I think there's also, she's got tournaments or something coming up a bit further down the track. So that her funding may still need to be considered for that. Because I know both these people personally and I have assisted with them getting their applications together, I think I should withdraw from any discussion about them.
Thank you, Edna. Your withdrawal from that is noted. Any questions from the board?
Well, I think that the second one for 500 should be reduced to 300 to keep it in line with all other applications we've had in the past. I think if we're going to start to get over that $300 mark, we're going to erode our funding. We're really not a scholarship board. I think that everybody in the past has had the $300, and I think we should maintain that level. And the second thing, of course, is that having been involved with trusts before, scholarships and bits and pieces, I think I know we've discussed this in the past, but we need to have an opening and a closing period of time for scholarships. But I also am cognizant of the fact that some of these things come up maybe outside that time, like the football tournaments with these 2 people involved and other things. So my recommendation is that both would be accepted, but the one for $500 be reduced to 300. That keeps it in line with all other applications we've had in the past.
Taylor's asking for 400 lots.
Well,
No,
I've got
5.
I've got 500 here.
Yeah, no, 500 is on the application, and I'm quite comfortable with that, Lux, because I know we've talked about scholarship applications before being about $300, and viewing them as seeding funding. But I'm happy to have a more detailed discussion about how we manage scholarships in our October meeting.
It means if we go to the 300 mark, then means if we got a little bit in reserve there, then we've got $200, and it's not going to be hard to find another $100 to give a third scholarship if we have to, depending on the circumstances. So that's the reason that I'm recommending that it goes to the 300.
Is there any further discussion on Lux's recommendation?
Good to me.
Well, Lux, do you want to move that?
I'll move that both applications be accepted for $300 to each to the applicants.
A seconder for that? Thank you, Cheryl. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Could you, Lauren, could you send me Taylor's telephone number, and I'll just ring her and explain why we've reduced it. And I'll just also check that the tournament's still going ahead with COVID. So we'll have a chat about that. I guess should have said this in the motion. I just put a rider on Taylor's one that if COVID has interrupted the tournament and she's not able to go, then we won't be handing over the money at this stage. Is that everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Just
I
as a
agree.
rider to this, because I'm just not everything's so uncertain at the moment, and I just want to make sure that we do the right thing on that. So if I'll ring Taylor's parents, or I'll ring Taylor and have a chat to her.
Paul, can I suggest that you move that as an addendum to that
Yeah.
motion, that the rider being that if the tournament is not proceeding,
Yeah.
that therefore the scholarship won't be provided.
Yeah, so the motion, I'll move the motion that if the tournament doesn't proceed for Taylor's application, that the funding be withheld. Someone to second. Thank you, Graham. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Excellent. So we move on now to the Governance Support Officer's report. Just a couple of things there. Noting the $30 payment for our Otago Community Broadcasters Society work with Otago Access Radio. I don't think there's anything particularly in the report. I've got to find the report now.
It wasn't a very detailed one. There wasn't a lot to put in.
Probably just a question, just a couple of things just that's probably come up in previous boards, and that is the issue around written reports and board updates. Just a reminder that the Chief Executive is responsible for preparing agendas for each meeting, and standing orders that the chairperson is to put a report on the board agenda. We don't have any of those major issues, to be honest, and I think we're all sensible enough not to have to deal with too much of that. But it is worth just noting that. I just wanted to quickly talk just about Latham Park. Now, I've written to staff again just to ask what's going on there, because that ground is sodden, absolutely sodden. I noticed here in this report that the fencing, some of the fencing's gone and the site's not contaminated, but it's still wet. I mean, it's probably got 6 inches of water on it at times. And really, this has dragged on a little bit. And I know, Edna, you've had some concerns about it, and I've had some others from locals as well. So I think we just need to push on with that. I wrote to Scott McLean yesterday. And what else have we got here?
I think that's a wider issue for Latham Park.
It's
a wider issue, because I do know from historically that a drain of 44-gallon drums was put in from where Bill Ingalls used to live down there, and it's maybe seeping through, and that hasn't been addressed at all.
Right.
So I think that's if historically I could find out who the person was responsible, because it drained that particular section.
Right.
So I think what we're seeing now is, with the gradual degradation of that particular piece of infrastructure, was put in obviously in the days of the Peninsula County Council.
Yeah.
That it may have an impact on the park itself, because that was actually that was also a reclaimed area like Maramoana Park and the Muddy at Macandrew Bay.
Edna, you were going to say something?
Oh, yes. Did you receive the email from Andrew?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Yeah, so the other issue too is the pathway at Beaconsfield Road. I think Kieran Trainer had mentioned that they were not going to fix that until potentially the new roadworks were done in next year. But that track has been closed since January this year. It seems to have gone on for an age, and the whole issue of discovering where the water seems to be coming from seems to be a problem. And I had contact just before lockdown from City Care, who'd been contacted by a member of the public, the community here, and it seemed to be going full circle. So what I've reiterated to staff is, if they could all please get their heads together at one time and see where we can go with this, because the critical issue at the moment is we just don't seem to know where the water's coming from. And it has certainly been going on for a while.
It's my understanding, Paul, that I spoke with Andrew last week, and he did say that he thought that the path was already opened up at that stage. And I said, well, it wasn't the last time I was there.
No.
But it should be opened up now.
No, it's still closed.
Having said that, is it?
Yeah, it's still.
All right, I'll follow that up later. I'll follow it up today.
And I see just from an update really from Chris, just in relation to curbside recovery. And I suppose once the tenders and the selection of the preferred supplier has been undertaken, we'll start to see some movement on the potential for how we deal with those people outside of the normal collection runs for the four bin system. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So the new contract is a partnership agreement, or intended to be a partnership agreement. And what those solutions are going to look like for not just the more rural areas, but also for CBD areas and densely populated areas. There's a number of issues to be overcome. So it'll be a co-design process with a preferred supplier.
Excellent, excellent. Just a couple of other things too, and I know something else that comes up from the report, and that is the markings and signage for the shared pathway. So that is hopefully not too far away. We're waiting basically for Waka Kotahi to set and gazette those types of markings, and once we have that, we can deal with that. It's a bit of a frustration, particularly from the Mackenzie Bay community. And there's some issues around speed and other bits and pieces of cyclists, and I'm hoping once we see that we'll see some improvement in that area. So I know, Ed, I think you've seen a fair few of those emails and letters at various times.
Yes.
Just on Tomahawk, the request for a gate is still being reviewed until it meets the legal requirements of staff. I've had a second complaint yesterday from a lady that was sprayed by a truck in that particular area and was none too happy. I will be writing to staff to find out, both regional council and the DCC staff, about the issues of health and safety and accessibility for members of the community there. Just item 17 in the transport updates, the regulatory committee will meet on the 25th of August. Obviously that hasn't happened because of COVID and because of lockdown. And we'll be looking forward to seeing what the outcome of that will be, and we won't be asking Councillor Wiley what that will be. The independent review in terms of representation review in item 19, that report went to council. I watched that on live. There will be submissions on closing actually on the 18th. I'm not sure whether that's been extended or not, Lauren.
Don't actually know, sorry, Paul, but I can check.
Yeah, basically our board and our board's area will stay the same. That's the recommendation in terms of numbers and our area. And in fact, all boards will remain in the same areas. So our board boundaries and numbers will stay the same. That's the recommendation. And you would have seen also too the recommendation for mana whenua representatives on committees, council committees, which I thought was in line with what we spoke with the representation review panel. So thank you for that. And I thought that was a very useful session for us. Item 22 of the report, you would have seen that you've had a small increase of $122 per year, which equates to $10 a month. And really, when you think about it, for the amount of time and effort that you have to put in, is probably covering your bus fares. Although, Locks, you're on the gold card, so it's not too much of an issue for you.
I think Edna's got one.
Ah, sorry.
I have. Thank you.
I'm just following the old adage that you should never talk about a lady's age.
It's very handy. And it's a great bus service.
There's a couple of other things, probably outside of areas, aspects of the district plan, and of course, housing policy, I believe, something that it's probably worth keeping a note of and keeping an eye on from our perspective. The initial announcements really, I didn't think affected the peninsula hugely, but it's worth keeping an eye on it from there. Are there any other discussion points or items from the governance officers, support officers report? Andrew.
Paul, just going back to point 12 about Tomahawk, you mentioned about trucks and spray and a lady being sprayed. So that's not related to the access gates for the beach. Topic is that the cartage of the sand through to Tahuna?
Yeah, so what has happened there is she's been on site and the truck has driven past her and she's been sprayed with sand and soil.
Okay, so on site at the Tomahawk Lagoon area. Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
The issue there is the access that's actually used by the contractor is actually Parks and Recreations. And so hence my reason to write to Scott and say to him, look, what's happening here in terms of the safety of the public who are using that area while trucks are in place. There has to be.
Okay, so you're talking. Sorry, I guess I'm at cross purposes. You're referencing the trucks that are the weekly mining of the sand at
yes,
Tomahawk and the truck. Okay, I was thinking of the resource consent that's been issued for all the sand to be removed from the subdivision up at Centre Road.
No.
All the trucks moving through Tomahawk. No, okay. No, all good. No, that's fine.
No, that's fine. It is something I've raised with Scott before, that given they cross reserve land to do that mining, there is a requirement under the Reserves Act for people to be able to access the site and be in relative safety. So that's just a discussion point that I need to take up with staff.
Perfect, thank you.
No worries. Just actually going back, just before we finish, there is on the subdivision, I have received an email from a member of the public there, and they are also wanting to discuss names of the areas there with the subdividers, and I'm about to reply to that because there is a strict council policy over the naming of roads. So I think she has ideas about what she'd like to call some of those areas. And as I say, that will need to be taken up between the developer and council. So are there any other items? Nothing else on the support officers report? Well, I'll move that the board notes the report. Someone to second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Edna. And
and ratifying the payment.
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Sorry.
Don't rush me. And I move that we ratify the payment of $30 for the board's membership of the Otago Community Broadcaster Society for this financial year. Someone to second that, please. Thank you, Cheryl. We move on to item 12, community plan. I don't have any items at the moment for community plan. I know that there was some updates done by you, Edna, I think last time.
What's that?
I know that there was some updates done last time on the community plan, just around names, addresses and contacts. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, yeah. There's nothing new to that.
Very good.
Oh, I don't have anything new.
No, that's fine. We'll move on then to item 13, verbal updates on activities. Though I doubt there'll be a lot on this given what we've just been through in the last month, but we'll start with you, Graham. Keep Dunedin beautiful.
Thank you. Keep Dunedin beautiful. There's been a wee bit of a change around in personnel there, and it has a new chairperson in the personage of Mandy Mayhem Bullock. Probably the most important thing that happened over the last couple of 3 months, it's a wee bit chaotic, was the Keep Dunedin Beautiful Awards that were held in early August, and there was an award given to, there was an award given to the SWAT team for their work on weeds on the peninsula, and out of that, and just in a discussion with them, they've got a bit of a problem that I'm wondering if the board can help with, in that they're able to identify and talk to, identify weeds and talk to people, private citizens and so on about it. But they're having a real problem doing anything about the weeds that they're seeing, or that we're all seeing perhaps, along the roadsides. And to that end, because it's a bit of a mission, you normally need cones and traffic management and so on like that. Is it possible to be able to come up with some sort of a method where the DCC effort can be called in to help, and maybe with some oversight from the SWAT team? It would certainly help, I think, in a longer term attack on weeds. I noticed, for instance, that some Datura, which we had the council attack 3 years ago, down on the corner of Nicholas Street and Portobello Road, is back with a vengeance. So if we were able to get some more coordinated attack on this sort of thing, and I think probably the SWAT people are the place to be doing that, because they're obviously already so engaged and doing such a good job. Apart from that, there's not much else to add to keep Dunedin beautiful. It's the next thing for us, I think, is just waiting for the drawings and so on for the boat shed, for the mural on the boat shed. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Just on the weed thing, perhaps you give me a ring, we'll talk about that outside of that, because I do have some ideas about that, and whether or not we can ask staff to support issues around road management, that kind of stuff. I know we've done that in the past, and in fact that's been really effective, but we can talk about that outside of that from there, if you like, Graham.
Yep, be happy to do that. Thank
Cool.
you.
Rural roads.
Also,
Sorry,
before I start that, just a point of clarification. That SWAT team, does that come under the auspices of STOP, does it?
No, they're actually their own little sort of group, managed by a woman called Marcia Dale and also Moira Parker. And we've actually funded this group a couple of years ago with chemical for work that they've done. It's basically seek weeds and terminate. And I have to say they've been very, very effective.
The reason I ask is STOP's just received a huge grant, a massive grant. I'm sure that STOP could help them.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure where that exactly, but my understanding is they're slightly separate.
Well,
what was the grant that STOP received?
Oh, they got a big community grant of about 19,000.
Oh,
I think, Locks, the problem is logistics as much as anything, really. It's you can't.
I understand that. Yeah, I do know that spraying that was down between here and the Portobello and the Weir line there, it was a good brew, whatever they put on it. It also took everything else out as well.
Yeah, and we had quite a few discussions with the community about the quality of that work from council. And actually, Graham, I'm due to meet with South Roads again, so perhaps you'd like to attend that with me.
Yeah,
that would be good. Rural roads, Locks.
Yes, I went and had a look at Allens Beach Road, Hoopers Inlet Road, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, Hoopers Inlet Road's been recently gravelled, but of course we've had some sort of heavy rain lately. But the roads are holding up quite well, I believe. I don't think there's any issues. Of course, there hasn't been a traffic over them as well. I know there's a bit of traffic still going to Allen's Beach for people in the lockdown period, but other than that, it's fine. And all the other roads are okay. I see the Gavian wall is just about complete at King George Street, and I see that they're looking at doing the Gavian wall there at Betty Osmond's as well. So that'll be obviously ongoing work all the way through from now on, where they've taken the bank away. But other than that, and the other concern, of course, is we're still getting that pitting, potholing at Sandpiper Street, Portobello Road, Sandpiper Street. I don't know if there's an underground spring there. But I see it has been patched already.
I saw that
fine.
the other day. Thank you, Locks. Community meetings. I don't think we're going to have anything at this stage. I think we just need to get out of this level 2 and deal with that later on. It's just no point, and I think we just, as I say, we wait till we get to level 1. Civil defence, Locks.
Yeah, did you find? I take it the key fits that you've got.
You know what, Locks? You're going to ask me that. I will do it. I will do it today. I'm sorry, it slipped out of my mind. I will go and have a look today.
Okay, so for all the other board members, the cabinet there at the bowling club, the key for that cabinet is actually attached on a piece of string to the right hand side of it. So the cabinet is locked, but then you can get in. I was going to ring Paul Allen because I see he's moved up the food chain.
Yeah.
But I just need someone to come down just to check the documentation and the forms there to see whether they're still relevant or not. I don't know if they've changed at all, if they've changed to the Act. So I'll give Paul a ring to see he can point me in the right direction of someone, just to ensure that we've got the right correspondence there.
Very
Other
good.
than that, fine.
Just on civil defence, last week I went down to look at Harwood and Tidewater Drive during that wind, and I actually spoke to Sandy Graham and pre-warned her that if the tide had been any closer, any further, that we probably would have had houses that may have needed to be evacuated. We were very lucky from that point of view, just given how strong the winds were. And we were lucky also that the high tide, the worst of the flooding came in at about 6 o'clock, but the low tide was 11:30. So I think if the tide had been different, we may have had a different scenario. But it also, from the photos that you showed me, Cheryl, and what I saw on the night, we do have some issues with that road and the state of that and the level of that road in that particular area in those type of storm events.
We're going to talk about that road in a minute.
Sorry?
We're going to talk about the road.
We can talk about that now, because it was very close to being a civil defence matter.
Yeah.
Given that if the tide had been different, and given the state of the wind on that night, we could have had a very different scenario with some of those houses in Tidewater Drive.
Yeah, and houses flooded down there that I have not seen flooded before.
Yeah.
But also the work that Terry Taylor and his crew did recently with the rock wall, I'm not sure how effective that was. So I'm wondering what we're going to do about that, because we're going to have to do something, because it's going to happen probably again.
I think what you need to do is, on behalf of the board, write to Andrew and Terry and CC that to Lauren and I, and request an on-site meeting with the team.
Yeah, and also, did you see on Facebook the video that the postman put on?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, and that road, if that could have been quite serious too.
I think, as I say, the first starting point is to have a meeting with Terry and with Andrew at Tidewater Drive and talk through those issues. I've had a reassurance from them about the backflow preventer that affects Mr. DeWall.
Yes.
But I think if you could all arrange that and make the contact from there, we'll take it from there. Did you have anything further to add to that, Andrew? Oh, okay.
I don't, but I appreciated seeing the photos, and I do think that we need to get this back to transport and really focus on the fact that here's an opportunity for a minimal spend to do it right and do it early, versus otherwise we're going to end up with a bigger spend later on. And I think
I agree.
And seeing where it's positioned in the long-term plan, I don't think we can wait that long. And I think that's where I'm very conscious that this does get accelerated in the work to be done within council budgets.
So, as part of that same event, from about 4 through to about 5:30, south of the Otago fisheries, through that area there was times where you couldn't distinguish between the edge of the road and the harbour, because it was up on the road, same way as it used to be at the bottom of Pippi Road. So at some point, they're going to need to find the funding to address that piece of widening.
And that needs to be raised again. So I think from your point of view, Cheryl, first of all, start with that.
Yeah.
And then I think in the October meeting, I think what we need to do is send more details of what. Do you have more detail, any photos of that, Hawani, apart from the video I've seen?
No, other than, I was too worried about getting through it myself rather than the video. But I don't think it's the last time we're going to see that. So next
and given the scenarios we're likely to see in climate change, we are going to get that again. Can I suggest that we write to Transport over the Otago fisheries? I will send them a copy of that video and ask them for some discussion in October.
All right.
Can that be addressed because that's the last section of the road to be widened, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's what I was hoping to do with that. And Cheryl, we need to start that conversation with Transport over the Harwood issues.
Yeah, I'll get onto it.
Cool. Taurioni, Edna.
Yes. Now, the update. Well, we had the blessing on Monday, the 16th. Fortunately, we got that done before lockdown. And so I think they were hoping to get started, but then we went into lockdown, so nothing happened. However, South Roads are now on site and they're carting rock. And hopefully the first groin will get started very soon. I did ask them to inform me when the first rock was going in. I want to be there to celebrate it. So yeah, it's all sort of just going ahead. In terms of the reserve itself, I've been working with Angus on a plan for the playground, and I think Cheryl, you might know, he dropped stuff off to the school for the children to have some input into playground equipment.
It wasn't actually Angus, but a lady did, and we've done that.
Oh, okay.
They're still here waiting to be collected.
Oh, great. Well, maybe I'll do that today or tomorrow.
Yeah, they're just at the office.
So we can, good. Thank you for that.
Quicker we can get that feedback done, Edna, the further we can progress this. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
Yes, I will. The entrance artwork there is still to be engineered for safety issues. Now, it's a magnificent piece of artwork, I must say. We really like it. But yeah, there's difficulties with that. So that's not been confirmed yet. And there will be no work on the development of the reserve until next year, purely because of all the truck movements in and out of there doing the groin work. So, but it's really good that it started. I'm excited.
Yeah. Would you mind writing to John and reminding him about the budget requirement,
Oh, yes, I will.
We need those estimates. And if you could CC that to the whole team, thanks.
Yep.
That'd be great, because Des rang me the other day and I might just delegate that one to you.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind.
I knew you'd say that. Harrington Point battery locks.
Yeah, I think we need to park this until the COVID's right over.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just need it. It's noted there, but there's not a hell of a lot we can do until they have, they can get in touch with the whole of the interested parties there.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a yo-yo with the COVID thing, and it's level one. Of course, as I've said before, it's private land, so there's a couple of matters to deal with there, and about terms of going for funding as well. So I don't know that the Southern Heritage Trust actually is the vehicle to allow for the gorse cutting, but I'll come up with a draft. I'll give you a draft at our next meeting just to see what let's think if we're heading in the right direction.
Cool. So we'll quickly go around the table for each and every of the areas. We'll start with you, Cheryl. Anything in the Harwood area?
Just, well, obviously about the roads, but also prior to lockdown, people were dropping things off at the recycling centre in Hooper's Inlet that didn't belong there. So I spoke to Mr. Paul Moroney, and we had the bins put away for level 4, and now they've been put back in place. It's an ongoing issue of people dumping things that aren't recyclable, but that's that. And the blocks, the protective barriers along from Wears Line down to Harwood, they've been taken out, and they were sealing the road yesterday, so I assume the new rounded ones will be going in any day now. So that's been work in progress, and I was quite impressed with Terry Taylor and doing that job smartly with the rock wall, but unfortunately we need to do a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have had 2 contacts, one positive, one negative, about the replacement of the concrete barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, it's council's decision, and all I can hope is that they'll push them back slightly. I'm not hopeful of that, but we'll see. Thank you, Cheryl. Hawani.
No, I don't have anything specific to my area that needs to be updated. Probably the only thing was around Wells Rock, and there was some discussion around that about signage, and it is continuing to move forward, but slowly.
Yeah.
And the other, I think you're aware of, was having the opportunity to talk to the water users from Harwood, Harrington Point, and they are all very keen to see that tap move to the park. So the sooner it can be moved to what was the AMP showgrounds, I think the better.
So I had contact from staff during level 4 about that, and they do have budget to shift the public water from the main street of Portobello to the Portobello domain. Just to confirm that, I'd like to move that the board endorse that option.
I'll second that.
Second that. Thank you, Juani. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Lauren, Lauren?
Yeah.
Could you just pass that resolution on to Peter McGruther? He wanted a resolution from the board on that, and I think it is the best option. And just on the other thing too, thank you, Hawani and Graham, for taking on the water duty once again during level 4 and level 3. It's a bit of an onerous thing, but to be honest, it's also an opportunity to chat to people. It's not, it's an hour of our time, so thank you for that. I put Edna and Locks away from that. I'm sure you didn't want to stand out in the cold and the wet. Anything else, Wayne?
Yeah, no, just one more thing. I noted last week after the rain and wind events that Fulton Hogan put some of their extra staff that couldn't be painting roads and those sort of things out on the peninsula to get the gutters and all those things tidied up, probably more efficiently than I've seen in the past. So if we could put a note through to Fulton Hogan acknowledging that, and also through to whoever oversees their contracts, we're pretty happy with the service they're currently providing.
Can you make a note?
Service in the past.
Can you make a note of that, Lauren, and we'll discuss getting that through to them? Locks, anything in your area?
No, everything's fine to High Road. I don't think there's any damage with the wind or the rain. I haven't noticed any slips,
No.
apart from a whole lot of pine cones on the bottom road.
No, that's all good. Edna?
Now, the only new thing that I can tell you is we discussed having a cycleway put through the McAndrew Bay, you know, the boat club there. And Ian got in touch with me to say that he's got an engineer doing the design for that and hoping to have that done by the summer holidays.
Okay.
So
You mean
that
the-
was a good bit of news.
You mean the design?
No, the job
Oh, the job.
completed. Yes,
Okay.
yes, I know. The Beaconsfield footpath is still, I keep reminding him about that.
Yeah.
So, and that's still on the page. He said it's a lower cost project, but he's hoping to get it programmed in for early next year.
Okay. So that becomes probably more critical now that we're having the problems with the Beaconsfield Road track.
Yes.
And as I reminded staff yesterday, there's no footpaths for any of those children other than that one to get to school.
Right. And the other things you've pretty much covered. The Marine Parade fence is just waiting for prices and options. The what else? That was about it, I think.
Very good. Graham, Graham, anything in your area?
Along with Portobello, there are a couple of 3 residents who've been concerned about the lights that the new lights that have gone in Broad Bay. I mean, the new lights across the whole peninsula, obviously. And the issue is that the lights that were there before either weren't going or had shields fitted to them to stop them from causing whatever lighting problems that they were causing. And obviously the new lights have just come in as completely new lights, and as they're new, they're all going, which is for some people a problem. To that end, I had a meeting with a couple from the DCC, from customer services, and Jessie, the person who is the project manager for the lights. It was quite useful, and they said that they were more than happy to come and put shields on new lights around the peninsula, and that people should just approach them through the 0800 number as usual and just treat it as a normal customer inquiry. I think the issue there is that people are probably going to have to be fairly persistent when this happens, because they don't necessarily get it right the first or even maybe the second or sometimes even the third time. And other things happen. Just recently, one of the lights in Portobello that's had some work done on has all changed because the power pole that the light is on has been changed by a different group, and so it starts again. But I suspect that there will be other people that will along the way notice that that they have lighting issues that they didn't have before. Just one other little thing to that too. The lights on the peninsula, as you're probably aware, are a different colour to the lights in the city. Our lights are supposedly 2200 K. The city ones are 3000 K. It just means the city ones are a bit more blue. However, there are still some lights on the peninsula that are that bluer colour. And the reason for that is that they were lights that were replaced by LEDs as the old lights were unable to be sourced any further. And there was assurance that these lights will be updated to the less blue ones as people point them out or as the lights come up for replacement. There are still 1 or 2 old lights for various reasons around, and the project is aware of those, and some of them are historic and some of them have got other problems that means that the project hasn't got to them yet, but they are aware of the whole situation, and so working their way through it. And yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, carry on.
And that's about it, really.
So you had a list of people, or had some contact with people who are not happy necessarily with the LED lights and the shielding of the bits and pieces. Has most of that been resolved, or is that in the process of being resolved?
It's more in the process of being resolved. The response has been quite quick, but it hasn't necessarily resolved the problem. And the issue is, initially the issue was that people didn't really realise that anything had been done.
Right.
So again, for anybody else that's coming up against this, it's important just to keep an eye on what's happening and get back to the council through customer services if the required outcome hasn't been achieved.
Well, given the fact that you seem to have, to be honest, the whole lighting thing confuses me. Electricity still is magic to my way of thinking. So quite frankly, I think what we might do is appoint you as all things lighting on the Otago Peninsula, Graham. And I think the thing too, to be honest, Graham, if there are people, and I think the rest of the board, if there are people who have problems with lighting, I think you direct them to Graham. And perhaps, Graham, you can act as the advocate because you've got the contact now within council and you've got the background. As I say, I don't always understand it myself. I'm just an on and off person. If the light's on, that's it. So we'll leave that with you. And thank you for doing that, Graham, because as I say, it's just something that I just don't fully understand myself. Are there anything else?
Barnett's Curtain Centre closed down.
Pardon?
It's a pity that Arthur Barnett's Curtain Centre closed down.
Yes. Yes. And Penrose's. On that note, I will move the reports and updates from members and the various parties. Someone to second. Thank you, Andrew. And we move on to item 14. Councillor Wiley, your update. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Since the last community board meeting, we had the sign off the long-term plan. On the 3rd of August, the Community and Culture Committee, we adopted the Play Spaces Plan of 2021. And the community will continue to be engaged through the implementation of the Play Spaces Plan 2021. Obviously, Three Waters is a very topical issue. And especially with the peninsula, with who's on their own tank and their own systems versus who's on the city system. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion as we move forward. That's council meeting this Monday, focused around our submission to the government. The destination plan, that's moving forward. A situation analysis has been released and stakeholders are being engaged with, which will lead to the draft destination plan. Hopefully that could be completed by the end of the year, but I think it'll be more likely early next year. Sports Hall of Fame obviously is a very topical issue at the moment. And just an update on the speed limits bylaw hearing. The committee has been delayed by COVID, etc. We're hoping the timeline enables us to be to present at the 27th of October council meeting.
Councillor, just on the what was it we were talking about there? What was the item before the speed limits and the spot? The destination plan, sorry. I haven't had any feedback on the board's submission, and I haven't had any information sent to us or that update. Is it possible you can send that to us?
I will get Malcolm to the staff member that's leading that work to feedback through to the community boards.
Thank you.
Because I have, as a member of the destination plan group, I have seen the complete situation analysis, and your information was fed into that. And so I clearly saw that there. But I will let Malcolm follow through with how he's engaging with the rest of the groups.
Okay.
Because if not just you, it's the other community boards as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions for Councillor Wiley? Not related to the Sports Hall of Fame. That's nothing to do with us. I would say just on the speed limits bylaw review, of the recent wind, most of our speed limit signs are all on an angle now. on Portobello Road, you'll notice all the new ones have been bent over with the wind. Anyway, on that note, I will move that we note Councillor Wiley's report. Someone to second. Thank you, Graham.
I'll second.
Thank you. And item 15, my report. Did you all saw the memorial plaque for Dave Cull? You saw that that design that came out in your minutes?
Yes.
You saw that? Are there any issues with it? Thank you. Very good. Mobile phone service. Now, I've had an email. I don't know, this just arrived today, just in relation to Tomahawk. There is a question about having a defibrillator connected to the emergency services at Ocean Grove, which may or may not improve the ability to have phone service in Tomahawk. So I'm following that one with interest. Rubbish bins, the old Chestnut, Broad Bay, Company Bay, that sort of area. There will be new bins put in between Company Bay and Broad Bay, and there will also be a couple of bins placed between Broad Bay and Portobello. Obviously, that follows up with some complaints we had about dog poo, and dog poo seems to be a hot topic around the city at the moment. Also, the bins at Broad Bay, which were removed, are going to be replaced. So I met with staff just before COVID. Peter Moroney, good man, Peter Moroney. He is going to deal with that. Just the Hereweka Smiths Creek area, the trust there, which I'm a member, has actually set aside the fenced area of Smiths Creek now as a dog exercise park. It is separate from the rest of the Hereweka farm, and there is signage going on there, so just keep an eye on that. Stepney Ave, and I believe that's been pretty much dealt with from staff. New signage in relationship to dogs and other activities on reserves for McAndrew Bay. I think I've sent you the designs for the McAndrew Bay, Broad Bay areas, and also new signage for Tomahawk Lagoon, Tomahawk Beach as well. You've seen that in your last parcel of notes. And that includes also dog control issues around McAndrew Bay and Broad Bay. I've had interest from the Tomahawk community in relation to a pump park, and I've put them in contact with the Portobello group as well. And there's some further interest from the Tomahawk community in relation to speed restriction measures from that point of view. And I think from that point of view, I'll move that my report be noted, unless there are any questions.
Just wondering,
Sure.
Yes, sure.
just wondering about the funding for the sea lion fencing. Where are we at with that?
So waiting to hear back from staff. The money set aside for the archaeological survey was set aside by Janine Benson. And so I'm just waiting to hear when that's going to happen.
Thank you.
The bins, Paul, when you're speaking to Mr. Moroney, I see those bins that were installed initially around the McAndrew Bay, Company Bay area have now got a lean and a tilt on as well. If they could be perhaps.
Yeah, there's a few, and I think there's a few that need to be straightened up. The other issue I think we need to raise with Peter is when the bins are put in, the new ones on stands need to be concreted in sufficiently well so that they're not blown away. Clearly, we are a high wind environment, and we need to make sure that our signs and other things are given a little bit more concrete than what they are at the moment.
And any update on the Glenfelloc Wharf?
Sorry. Oh, yes. There was an email today on the Glenfelloc Wharf. Bear with me, Locks. It is going ahead. I can't give you the detail, and I had an email today also to say that the Wellers Rock jetty is to be replaced in this financial year as well. Okay. Did you know about that, Hawani? Shall I flick you the email? All right, I'll do that. That only arrived this morning. I got that this morning.
And one last question. Is it Camp Road or Camp Street? There was developments going on. I see there's quite a bit of work being done there. I presume it's going to be a gabion wall or a fence. I'm not too sure, but is there any indication of what's going to happen there? Because there's 25 sections being developed up there in the future. We've got to consider, is it going to be the road going to remain in that configuration, or is there going to be one that goes back towards Dunedin so that they can pull in, pull out?
I know I did get an email from a member of the public or a member of the community asking why the board was not involved in some of the process relating to the road issues. And I had to say, well, we weren't, and it was dealt with through transportation, through the consenting process. So I'm not sure entirely what that configuration will look like, Locks. We could probably have a look online at the consent, because the design will be there. There's certainly a lot of work going on in that Camp Road area. There's no doubt about that. Andrew.
Paul, just going back to Tomahawk and the cell coverage, and I note in the last meeting in the minutes, there was a discussion about Chorus copper withdrawal and Spark PSTN being switched off. You were going to contact with Des Adams and an Enterprise Dunedin. Did anything come of that, or is that?
I didn't. That got interrupted, and then I actually made contact with the liaison with Spark, and I'm supposed to have a meeting with them about the copper withdrawal project for the whole of the peninsula and what the implications of that are. But that's again been interrupted with COVID.
Okay, but and I guess where I'm here leading with this question is with the 60 plus or 80 plus sections that are being developed in Tomahawk, on top of what already the people residing there. I would have thought one of the our companies that are special in telecommunications would be wanting to capture that audience by providing a very good and modern service to that area.
I would have thought so, but one of the issues is that the people that are up slightly on the hill get better service than the ones down the bottom. So all we can hope is that, as I say, I've had this email today. I'll flick you a copy of that because it does indicate the potential for contacting Spark and putting some more pressure on them relating to the infrastructure for that.
I would also think there's a very good community narrative, especially around if the ability to put cameras in around the safety of swimming at the beach and things like that, similar to what Councillor Radish has done with the Tyree Mouth community, where they've now got cameras being going live and assisting with any search and rescue and that type of thing in that community. So anything that's got a real good safety angle on it would also be a benefit.
Yeah, and I agree with that, absolutely. So on that note, I'm going to move that my report be noted. Someone to second. I have no 16. There are no items for consideration for the chair.
Excuse me, Chair. Who seconded that?
Cheryl.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl.
And so on that note, at 11:20, I'm going to thank you for your attendance, and I'm going to declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
I did note, Paul,
Nice to see you.